Good morning. For those of you in the back, there are some chairs up here towards the front, if you'd like to make your way forward. Welcome to Spirited Summer Worship at Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. Cedar Lane is a liberal religious community gathered to explore the eternal, to nurture community, and to help build a more just world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, and whatever your life circumstance, you are welcome here. If you are new to Cedar Lane and feel comfortable doing so, would you please raise your hand? Yep, lots of visitors today. That is wonderful. Thank you for being here. Keep it raised. We have a small gift to offer you to mark your time with us today. And thank you for choosing to be here today. Our welcome does not end with worship. All are invited to enjoy coffee and conversation after this service in the lounge. And if you are new to Cedar Lane or still feeling new, we invite you to use a yellow mug as a sign that you'd like those who have been here a bit longer to greet you. At coffee hour, there's only one thing yellow means, it's hello. That's right. In a moment, I will invite you to greet your neighbors, but before I do, please hear these important announcements. Today only, come to the annual church picnic after this service of worship and celebration. I understand we'll be sending off one of our ministers and eating cake. Never a bad way to spend a Sunday morning. All are welcome and encouraged to attend. Also today from 1 to 3 p.m., Cedar Lane's Next Gen Hunger Ministry needs you. Bring food, pack boxes, and put a little social action into your summer as you make a difference in the lives of hungry people in Montgomery County. Now, do you love animals and wish you could do more for them? Then you've come to the right place. Our fourth grade learners and leaders will be selling baked goods after the service in the lounge. All proceeds go to the Humane Society of Montgomery County. Next Saturday, Unitarian Universalists will be on the march in Washington, D.C. You can join them for the 2016 Pride Parade and show your support for your LGBTIQ friends and family. Details are listed in today's announcements, the insert in your order of celebration. And now, Reverend Abhi has an announcement.
Thank you, Greg. The worship associates play an important role in both how we develop and lead our worship experiences here at Cedar Lane, but also to bring the layperson's perspective into worship. We've been really blessed by an amazing team of worship associates, 12 of them, and each year we recruit 3 new worship associates as 3 of them cycle off. So right now we're in that phase of recruiting worship associates. So if this is something that you have been thinking about or interested in and want to explore, we do have a process by which we encourage people to apply to be a worship associate. And there is an announcement in your order of celebration that says that there's a flyer on the back of the sanctuary, so I hope you will pick one up. Or you may speak to me or Emily Melgren, who is one of our worship associates, who is part of worship today. So that's my announcement. And now, if we will take a moment to turn and greet our immediate neighbors. You may still want to survey.
Okay. Thank you all for being so warm and inviting and welcoming. And talkative. Let us now be together as one people of liberal faith. The prelude prepares us for worship.
We come in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes.
Some of us grow in bunches.
Some of us grow alone.
Some of us are cupped inward.
And some of us spread ourselves out wide.
Some of us are old and dried and tougher than we appear.
Some of us are still in bud.
Some of us grow low to the ground.
And some of us stretch towards the sun.
Some of us feel like weeds sometimes.
Some of us carry seeds sometimes.
Some of us are prickly sometimes.
Some of us smell.
And all of us are beautiful.
What a bouquet of people we are.
Yep.
All right. As the Chernikov family comes forward to kindle our chalice, please rise in body or in spirit to speak the unison words in the chalice lighting words printed in your order of celebration. We kindle the chalice to remind us of the light that brightens all of our days. We gather many different flowers to remind us of the unique contribution each person makes to our shared faith. As we gather here, we remind ourselves that we, like the flowers, are many. We, like the light, are one. In our beloved community, may we, though many, be one in spirit and in service. Please remain as you are for the opening hymn, number 8, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, in the gray hymnal.
Amen. Greg.
The Flower Communion service is a uniquely Unitarian Universalist celebration developed by Norbert and Maya Čapek, Czech Unitarian ministers. Norbert was born in 1870 in what was then called Czechoslovakia. He became a reporter during the First World War, which angered the government. He then came to this country, where he served in the Army intelligence during the war.
Norbert met and married Maha in New York, and they became Unitarians. They returned to Prague in 1921, and with the help of the American Unitarian Association, founded a Unitarian church there. Maha was ordained in 1926. The Prague church services consisted of lectures and some music.
The Čapeks felt the lectures were dry and boring. Gradually, they introduced religious elements into the service of worship. Norbert wrote some such as the one we just sang. But he and Maja felt the need for some ceremony that would bring people closer together and make them feel like a religious community. And so they created the Flower Communion service. For this service, everyone was asked to bring a flower to church. And during the service, the congregation would place their flowers inside a large vase. Towards the end of the service, each person took a different flower from the vase.
The Flower Communion symbolized that despite how hard life had become, each person had something beautiful to contribute to the common good and receive something back. The first Flower Communion ceremony was celebrated June 4th, 1923. Maha came to the United States in the spring of 1940, and it was then that she introduced the Flower Communion here at the First Parish Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. During her tour, World War II broke out, and Maha was unable to return home. Norbert continued his ministry in Prague, and for preaching against the Nazi occupation, the secret police arrested him and his youngest daughter in 1942. Čapek was imprisoned in Dachau, where he died 4 months later.
Before his death, Dr. Čapek's courage in the face of torture and starvation was a source of inspiration to his fellow prisoners. He organized the Flower Communion service in the prison as well. Each prisoner brought what flowers they could find in the camp to the service. At the end, they took with them a different flower than the one they had brought to symbolize their sense of community. Fortified by his words, men joined together despite the awful conditions in the concentration camp. After the war, survivors testified the Unitarian minister could not have been sent to a place where he was more needed.
Dr. Čapek's commitment to justice and freedom lives on in our faith. It lives on in our congregation. It lives on in us. We honor him and Maha through his communion, this communion here today.
We are a community of shared hopes and joys, of burdens and sorrows. These flowers symbolize that community. They remind us that in spite of all the sorrow in the world, beauty and friendship do exist. May it be so.
I invite you to center yourselves for a time of prayer and reflection as I share this prayer for the consecration of flowers that Dr. Čapek wrote. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these thy messengers of fellowship and brotherly love. May they remind us that amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents or failures discourage us or sully our relationship, But may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in the world. Amen. And let us now join together in singing the hymn we normally sing when we invite our children and youth to head off to their classes, Peace of the Spirit. But the difference is the children will still stay with us in the service today.
The peace of the Spirit will be with you now, as you go forth from this space, hold it in your heart. Of knowledge and hope to seek, your teachers will guide. Use the wisdom that they share to make a better world.
We gather, as we always gather, in sacred space, a place set aside as a sanctuary amid the many challenges of life, a center from which we may gather strength to face these challenges with courage and grace, with faith and love. In this time of reflection, we lift up those in our community who are living through significant passages, the small and extraordinary milestones of life. We pause to be present to our own spiritual companions and to the concerns of our own hearts. May all who gather here be held in the embrace of this community of care. Congratulations to Cedar Lane members Ernie Carlson and Carrie Meyer on their marriage on Tuesday, May 31st. We are so happy for you, Ernie and Carrie. A service in celebration of the life of Jack Elliott, husband of Carol Elliott, will be held here at Cedar Lane on Saturday, June 18th at 11 a.m. A celebration for the life of early Cedar Lane member Bud Mueller will be held on July 2nd at 2 p.m. here at Cedar Lane. All are welcome to attend. And Betsy Binkus is continuing rehabilitation for a fractured leg at Washington Adventist Hospital. Betsy anticipates returning home soon. For these friends of ours and for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in our hearts, let us turn to the peace and solace of prayer, first in words and then through the stillness that silence brings.
Our flower prayer this morning is by Netzacoatl. I invite you to center in for a moment of prayer and meditation. Flowers have come to refresh and delight us. You see them briefly as they dress themselves, spread their petals, perfect only in spring. Countless golden flowers. The flowers have come to the skirt of the mountain. Yellow flowers, sweet flowers, precious vanilla flowers, the crow's dark magic flowers. They all weave themselves together. They are the flowers of the gods. We only borrow them, their flowered drum, their bells, their song. They are divine. In our moment of silence this morning, if you are grieving a loss or commemorating the anniversary of a loss, you're invited to stand in mourning and memory until our music begins.
working on this program, Unsung Heroes, I have learned there are many great people doing caring things in our community and in the wider world year after year. I'm both thankful and grateful. Each April, the Board of Trustees asks for nominations from the congregation for the Cedar Lane Unsung Hero Award. These awards are given to individuals or groups of members who have made exceptional, yet largely unrecognized contributions of time and talent to our church community. This year, there are 3 honorees. They are wonderful representatives of our caring community. Our first recipient served for many years as chair of Cedar Lane's Martha's Table program, providing food to vulnerable people in the District of Columbia. Her task was to recruit, organize, and inspire some 40 to 50 Cedar Lane volunteers who contributed, processed, and delivered food twice a month. She has an unobtrusive, hands-on style, soliciting contributions, cutting vegetables, and delivering supplies when necessary. She also served as co-chair of the Forum Committee, working on recruitment of speakers, crafting thoughtful introductions, placing notices in the newsletter. Years ago, in her quiet way, this hero led a campaign that persuaded the Board of Trustees and worship team to expand the time between Sunday services so that Forum could be presented more effectively. And that's been a wonderful addition to Sunday mornings. A friend who worked with her on the Forum Committee says, she's always exhibited a serious commitment to adult religious education, creativity in seeking interesting speakers, and reliability. She was an engine of creativity and a joy to work with. Among other contributions, and this is not a comprehensive list, pastoral visitor, chair of the endowment committee, member of the Board of Trustees. A thoughtful, tactful, and conscientious person, Karen Lerner is most deserving of the title Cedar Lane Unsung Hero. Thank you. Our second honoree was concerned about her transition from being on staff to being just a member. I'd say lucky us. Quietly, efficiently, this hero organizes volunteers to provide refreshments and a supportive setting as chair of the Alliance Memorial Reception Committee. She does this as her mission. A member of the committee says, she oversees the whole project, worrying about all the details. She keeps team members informed about upcoming services. She shows up to see if she can help set up or stay and clean up. I have never worked with anybody so thorough. She heads up the archives at Cedar Lane, beginning with a pile of document-filled boxes in a small and dirty space. She has been organizing and preserving the collection and the constant flow of new documents for the past 8 years. A fellow archives volunteer says she knows so much about the history of the church and has memories of so many now deceased members through her many years at Cedar Lane. And so this hero who also serves as a Sunday greeter and coffee server and We Care neighborhood chair, a member since 1967, and our RE administrator from 1970 to the end of 2008. Well, whatever project Glennis Belay sets out to do, she gives it and us her all. Our third recipient has been active at Cedar Lane for more than half her life. One of her nominators is a co-teacher in Session 1 DUSO. The teacher writes, I have known her for 2 years as a teen assistant in the DUSO class. She is kind to all members of the class, grown-ups and children alike. She makes everyone feel liked. She anticipates the needs of the class, this is the teacher's writing, and often preps materials before the teachers even think to ask. She has brought in a camera to take pictures for our class book and checks in with students when they seem to need it. The young person is also a worship associate, which means she helps lead Sunday services. And she is a friend and leader within the older youth group at Cedar Lane. Beyond Cedar Lane, this hero leads an extremely busy life, playing 3 varsity sports at Einstein High School, participating in the school's Best Buddies program for differently abled students, visiting and applying to colleges. She'll attend the College of Worcester this fall, studying biology and German. Her mom writes, none of what our daughter has done at Cedar Lane comes from us pushing her. It has all come from her being true to her home at Cedar Lane and acting on that commitment. I believe that the work that she has done at Cedar Lane has fueled her through all her activities and pursuits. It looks completely effortless, and her contributions are easy to overlook. Unsung Hero. It is a title made for her. Our third honoree, Elise Nikolic.
Thank you, members of the choir, Henry and Jasmine, for that beautiful anthem. And congratulations and gratitude to our unsung Shiro recipients. Karen Lerner, Glennis Belay, and Elise Nikolic. Thank you for the many blessings you have provided this, our spiritual home, for so many years. We're truly blessed. Thank you. One of the most popular and enduring American religious songs is the Shaker tune, Simple Gifts. It was written by Elder Joseph Brackett Jr. somewhere around 1848 while living at the Shaker community in Alfred, Maine. Now, Simple Gifts was written as a dancing song. And as musicologist Roger Hall writes, it was both an instruction for dancing as well as an instruction for life. The song was popularized by composer Aaron Copland when he famously set its tune into Appalachian Spring, his 1944 ballet for the Martha Graham Company. And then in the 1960s, the tune found its way into numerous Protestant hymnals as Lord of the Dance, written by English poet Sidney Carter. Now, by the 1980s, the song had become a symbol of American heritage. It was sung at President Reagan's second and President Bill Clinton's first inaugurations by famous opera singers. So now, I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit to sing Simple Gifts, which is in our gray hymnal, number 16. Is that right? Number 16. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift. Beautiful. Thank you. 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. Now, these words themselves are a prayer of thanksgiving, a prayer of justice, and a prayer of grace. And I love the possibilities of simplicity, freedom, belonging, and purpose. I've longed all my life for a simpler life. I have desired all my life to be free. And I have yearned all my life to be where I feel I really belong. And this song captures that. It resonates in my heart. 'Tis the gift to be simple, is to be endowed with an aptitude for simplicity and to receive it, to embody it as a gift, as a blessing. When I think of that, I'm reminded of my maternal grandfather, Kameshwarrao Janamanchi, who died a few years ago. He was 94. All his life, he lived simply so others may simply live. He was a lifelong follower of Mahatma Gandhi, was involved in the independence movement as a young man, met Mahatma Gandhi a couple of times in his life, and was deeply influenced both by the way Gandhiji lived his life as well as his message. And he sought to follow Gandhiji throughout his life. He had very few wants. He owned about 5 dhotis, the Indian tunic that men wear, made of hand-spun khadi, hand-spun cotton, which is all that he owned, and a few shirts, again made of khadi, hand-spun cotton. And wherever he went, he would walk. He called himself the walker. And he would walk miles, and that's what kept him fit all his life. He did own some things that he cherished deeply, his library of books. Those he called his single greatest possessions. And he treated them carefully. He cherished and valued the wisdom that resided in those books. He also lived a life of integrity, courage, and service. As a young man, he encouraged his young sister, who had been widowed at age 12, to study and to get a master's degree in education. This was in the early 1930s. And then, when she fell in love with his best friend, he got them married and paid a steep price, coming from an Orthodox Brahmin family where he was excommunicated for what they considered to be this blasphemous act. He never looked back, nor did he feel any kind of regret for what he had done. All his life, he served as a block development officer working with the indigenous tribes in southern India, supporting their rights as well as helping them figure out a way to continue living when there was so much encroachment happening from corporations and even the government. 'Tis the gift to be simple. A simple life, as he embodied it, is a blessed life. An uncluttered life that he lived is a blessed life. An unhurried life that he lived is a blessed life. A life unencumbered by stuff is a blessed life. And while we cannot necessarily control all aspects of our complex lives, wherever, whenever, however, we can choose the simpler path. We are blessed by possibly being more attentive, more awake and present. And simplicity, looked that way, is not just a gift which brings blessings upon us. Leading a simpler life also allows us to be more attentive to the people around us, the relationships that we share, and be a blessing by sharing our gifts. 'Tis the gift to be simple. 'Tis the gift to be free. Simplicity, you see, means taking charge of a life that is way too busy, way too stressed, and way too fragmented. It means being freed from the tyranny of the devices and the demanding schedules that would take over and rule our lives if we would let them. Simplicity means cutting back on trivial distractions that cumulatively can become quite toxic in our lives, both material and non-material, and focusing on the essentials of living. Or as Henry David Thoreau said, our life is frittered away by details. Simplify, simplify. 'Tis the gift to be free. Muhammad Ali understood and embodied that. On Friday, we lost one of the greatest athletes and civil rights icons when Muhammad Ali passed away at age 74. In the 1960s, at the height of his career, he had the courage to stand up to the US government against the Vietnam War. What Muhammad Ali did in a culture that worships sports and violence, as well as a culture that idolizes black athletes while criminalizing black skin, was redefined bravery as being speaking truth to power, no matter the cost. When he was suspended from boxing for refusing to be drafted into the Vietnam War, he said, and I quote, "Why should they ask me to put on a uniform and go 10,000 miles from home and drop bombs and bullets on brown people in Vietnam while so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs and denied simple human rights? No, I am not going 10,000 miles from home to help murder and burn another poor nation simply to continue the domination of white slave masters of the darker people the world over. This is the day when such evils must come to an end. I will not disgrace my religion, my people, or myself by becoming a tool to enslave those who are fighting for their own justice, freedom, and equality. If I thought the war was going to bring freedom and equality to 22 million of my people, they wouldn't have to draft me. I'd join tomorrow. I have nothing to lose by standing up for my beliefs. So I'll go to jail. So what? We've been in jail for 400 years. The most important part of Muhammad Ali's legacy is his refusing to be afraid. Because it is when we cease to be fearful that we become truly free. Rabindranath Tagore, the Indian poet, wrote, "Where the mind is without fear, where knowledge is free, into that land of freedom let my country awake." As he said years later, Muhammad Ali, and I quote, "Some people thought I was a hero. Some people said that what I did was wrong, but everything I did was according to my conscience. I wasn't trying to be a leader. I just wanted to be free. 'Tis the gift to be free. And 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. How do we really know if we are where we ought to be? You see, the word ought has a theological imperative. It kind of sticks in our craw. Than, should, or could. Ought helps us evaluate choices on a deeper level. Ought happens when we go deep down into ourselves and connect with that divine spark, the Atman that resides in all of us. Ought has an ethic and morality and urgency that is revealed in our life of faith. And in the living of our days, we are constantly discerning any number of choices about what we can, should, and ought to do. If we start thinking it's time for a new job, it's probably easiest to begin with what we know we can do and imagine what we could do. As we live in human relationship, we probably also think about what we should do in order to sustain ourselves, make others happy, support our families, and hopefully make this world a better place. We think about whether we should and could do this or do that. These are both important processes, but we shouldn't stop there. Our Unitarian Universalist faith tells us to continue pushing forward to where we are rooted and grounded, asking ourselves what we ought to be. What do we feel called to be and do? What ought we do with our one wild and precious life? So thinking more communally, ought helps us live out our shared call to do justice, to love mercy, and to build and sustain the beloved community. What we do when the world breaks, as it is prone to do, what we do when we are confronted with the sins of racism, religious intolerance, xenophobia, transphobia, sexism, homophobia take over. What do we do when our society once again fails to remember that Black lives matter? Or when we are confronted with income inequality or the continued disparity between what women make and what men make? And if we think only about what we can do, it's easy to get so discouraged about all that we cannot do that any action at all becomes impossible. If we think only about what we should do, we run the risk of getting caught in the waves of social fervor and indignation where we lose the sense of how each of us, individually and collectively, might respond. It is in the living of our ought that we find ourselves in the place just right. When we find a life partner who supports us, loves us, challenges us, speaks truth to us, we find ourselves in right loving. When we share our burdens and help carry those of others, we live in right community. When we nurture our children, care for our elders, and celebrate all life in between, we live in right relationship. This is the place that's just right, and it feels good. I have, in my life and in my ministry, witnessed the experience of deep and abiding joy when people offer their simple gifts in service to others. Elise, Glennis, Karen, and many others here, and offer it to create a more just, compassionate, and sustainable world. This is what we are called to be and do. I'm reminded of 4-year-old Alexandra Scott. 2 days before her first birthday, she was diagnosed with an aggressive childhood cancer. At age 4, she decided to help discover a cure for her illness by opening Alexa's lemonade stand for pediatric cancer research, beginning in her own front yard. In her short life, Alex raised over $1.6 million. Now, she did not live to see her own cure, but her lemonade stands are now operated at the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. From a lemonade stand to almost $2 million. We never know how important our simple gift might be. It is the gift to be where we ought to be. And it will be in the valley of love and delight. Really? Valley of love? Valley of delight? Because as you know in Christian scripture, the valley is a metaphor for difficulty. The song, Simple Gifts, is related to Psalm 23, which says goodness is a gift from God. God's gift of simplicity echoes the still waters. God's gift of freedom echoes the security of green pastures. God's gift to come down where we ought to be echoes the right paths. Our reception of these gifts transforms difficult, dry bone valleys into delightful ones. Our prophetic promotion of these gifts transforms life. Now, many of us worry about what's happening in our world today. We worry about our planet and what we are doing to it. We are heartbroken by the ongoing deaths of hundreds of refugees trying to cross the seas or the desert, seeking safety and a better life for themselves and their families. We worry about indiscriminate acts of terror that destroy the lives of innocent people and that threaten the safety and security of our lives. We worry about the state of our nation. We worry that money in politics, that dogmatic partisan politics, that commercial corporatism, that demagoguery and disinterested citizenry will decimate the good of our democratic system. We worry that lack of access to health care, affordable housing, nutritious food, or clean drinking water will spiral downward to disaster, to valleys of dry bones. But if we allow our despair to settle into us, our despair about politics, despair regarding self-hate, despair about personal health, despair about gun violence, despair about what we are doing to the planet, or worry for others, it will wick out our life. It will wick out our hope. And this demonic despair will stifle and silence our prophetic voices of hope and change and love. Despite all the despair and travail that surrounds us, we are still called as people of faith to turn, to witness to that spirit of life in which we live, move, breathe, and have our being, that always calls us forward in love, in community, in service. Because to turn will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right. Now, Cedar Lane is in no way dry, cannot be characterized as bony, right? Yeah, see, I'm well endowed, so I wouldn't call myself bony. But every community can welcome more hope, more love, and more life. Our community can again welcome the hard task and call to be prophets, to dream and speak and embody the change that we wish to see in ourselves and in the world. Because the gift is simple. It is free. When we sing and shout and say our faith's hope, we are indeed in the place just right, and it will be the valley of love and delight for all people. So may it be. Blessed be. Would you rise once again in body and or in spirit to sing "'Tis the Gift to Be Simple," number 16 in the Gray Hymnal. Please be seated. As the ushers come forward to give and receive the offering that sustains the life, ministry, and mission of Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church, I invite us to remember that all may participate in the life of the congregation with the simple gifts of their mind and hearts, their skills and time, their wisdom and their vulnerability, the gifts of their livelihood, and the gifts of their commitment. Whether on Sundays at this time, whether by electronic means or gifts in a plate, we offer of ourselves to make religious community happen. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Through the work of our hearts and the work of our hands, our faith is made real. May we be grateful for all that we bring and share to make this a beloved community.
It is time now for us to share the flower communion. I ask that as each of you in turn approach the communion table, and we will be holding these flowers for easier access, so you don't all have to come forward to the table at the same time. I invite you to do so quietly as our choir shares some beautiful music, and to be awake and present to these flowers that are before you, and to know that these flowers are like us all, unique, mortal, beautiful, even a little quirky. Let these flowers remind us that despite our differentness and differences, we are one with all that is. May they remind us of the many simple gifts that we are blessed with in our comings and goings. I ask that you select a flower different from the one you brought that particularly appeals to you. And as you take your chosen flower, noting its particular shape and beauty, please remember to handle it carefully, because it is a simple gift that someone else has brought to you. It represents that person's unique humanity and therefore deserves your kindest touch. So let us now quietly and reverently share in this Unitarian Universalist ritual of oneness, love, and community.
Trillium graceful, trillium white, star of the woodland, lady of light. Lo, how she proudly stands in the glade, tri-sceptered sovereign, queen of the shade. Stately she rises, slender-stemmed, tall, gracious response to spring's early call. Lifting three-leaf arms high from the sod, gazing with pure-faced lip at her God.
As lovely as soft bits of fragile crinkled silk, these rosy blossoms clustered thick upon the heavy drooping boughs, when shaken by a summer wind, drop down in swirling showers and drift a while about the ground. Then, gathered in the frosty heaps beneath the hedge, they spread a frill of rosy lace around the green lawn's edge.
Please rise in body and or in spirit. And if you feel so moved and feel comfortable holding your neighbor's hand or bumping elbows, may the blessing of the flowers be upon you. May their beauty beckon to you each morning, and their loveliness lure you each day, and their tenderness caress you each night. May their delicate petals make you gentle, and their eyes make you aware. May their stems make you sturdy, and their reaching make you care. Go in peace, go making peace. Live gently, love mightily, and bow to the eternal mystery. Please be seated for the postlude, and following which we will have the picnic.
That was fun. So please stay for our picnic. It's going to be right here in the sanctuary. We have volunteers to take care of the chairs, so if you could just pick up the hymnals and join us in the lounge for coffee hour, and we'll get the picnic set up. And there are vases in the back of the sanctuary if you want to stash your flower there during the picnic, so it will have water.